Well, hello there, motherfuckers. And it's at times like these that I don't know what to tell you. Honestly. The whole Heyman thing, it's like, you know what? We'll get to that. So you'll watch the video so I don't blow my load right here in the first few minutes of the video. So at least there's something to look forward to later on with the rant. There wasn't a lot to look forward to with this show, but, this is the go-home show for SummerSlam. So we already know from the offset how this goes, how this is going to turn out. We already know that the build is going to be bad. How bad is it already before you even turn on the show? How would you like it if before you turned on Walking Dead, before you turned on any show that you like to watch, that you already knew that episode was going to suck, that there was no hope, that you already knew that they were going to be bad based on a trend? You wouldn't watch this show, first of all. I don't know what it is about wrestling, but when a show sucks, you don't watch it anymore. So for me, that show was Fear the Walking Dead after the first season. It wasn't even that show was bad. I even actually did a video. But I wasn't feeling it. It just wasn't my type of show. I felt like I was watching a bootleg version of the Walking Dead. I felt like it was just a cash-in. So what did I do? I didn't continue to watch it. And that's what I'm saying. But I don't know what it is about wrestling. It's like a disease. It's like once you watch it, once you go to the shows, once you collect the merchandise, whatever the thing might be about wrestling, it's something like you can never shake it, you can never get rid of it. Once it's in your life, once it's always in your life. But for some people that I know, they were able to shirk wrestling from their lives completely, just put it out of there, never to return. So I don't know why, I have such a problem with that and why a lot of other people do. Now, I don't know what it is, but like I said, I've got to classify it as some sort of a sickness or something like that. So we started off with Ronda Rousey talking about Jim the Anvil Nia Hart and saying, Natty should stay strong. And, I like this. I have a feeling that maybe WWE might have fed her those lines about fathers and everything, but it was nice, and I will like it. Scripted or not, or from the heart, whatever it was, Ronda actually showed some emotion. It is a sad moment. I was, kind of heartbroken to hear this. He wasn't an old guy at all, 63 years old, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Back from a time when wrestlers actually looked like wrestlers. You took a look at Jim the Anvil Neidhart and you said, this is a guy that deserves attention. I don't know what it was, but later on in the 90s, I think they put him under a mask or something like that. And it was at the beginning of the 90s, around 93. It wasn't until the Hart Foundation was put together, in 1997, that we really saw the Anvil, do what he could really do once again. So, it was disappointing. They mistreated him for a little bit of his career, but for the most part, it was pretty positive, and he will be missed. After that, Ronda gets confronted by Alexa Bliss and Alicia Fox. Bliss introduces her team. I don't know why they had Bliss making fun of her facial expressions and everything, because like I said, that is a more comedic part of Ronda Rousey, and like I said, they should not be exposing people's weak points in promos. I hate when they do this. The Jekyll and Hyde shit with Ronda Rousey should not be exposed. They should, keep that out of their mouths. You know what I mean? It's okay, I understand you want to acknowledge it and everything because it's right there, it's the elephant in the room, but sometimes it's best to just ignore it. They used to do it all the time, I'm not a fan of announcers, acknowledging shit. They should be covering for it. They should do their best to try to make excuses and stuff like that. My favorite thing would be like when Matt Stryker was on commentary. I thought the guy was a pretty good commentator. Sometimes he'd say like weird things, but one of the things, like when a wrestler would slip on the top rope, he'd explain that sometimes the ropes would get slippery due to the wrestling's perspiring during the match. And I thought, like, that's, that makes you, it might sound like bullshit, but it makes you think. Like, well, yeah, something, if it's wet, it would be slippery. And before you know it, I mean, if you even have to second guess yourself, then you're doing a good job as a commentator. So Ronda gets confronted by Bliss. Bliss introduces her security team. Didn't we just have Ronda beating up on security? Just like, or was that Asuka on SmackDown? Somebody was beating up on security, whatever it was. It was good. I like the black guy at the end with the face when the other three get destroyed. And he just runs out of the ring. That was a nice little touch. Then we have a match with Ember Moon and Alexa Bliss. And this is kind of where I start to get a little pissed off, Why would you have Alexa Bliss almost get beat and you have to have Fox rush in and save her? Ember Moon does not even have a match at SummerSlam. Bliss is going in there against Ronda Rousey, a former champion in the UFC. She used to beat up girls for a living. Real. It was legit beating people up. So why would you have, you want to kind of, like they had Alexa Bliss say that many people are saying it's a pretty open shut case. The title's going with Rousey at the pay-per-view. Why would you even show Bliss to be vulnerable at a time right before the pay-per-view? Shouldn't Bliss maybe get some heat? Maybe, get a cheap shot in on Rousey and then run away, and then kind of leave it open so Rousey destroys her at the pay-per-view. I don't know what they're planning here. It's like, I don't know where you go with this at the pay-per-view. Do you want to make it a squash? We just saw a squash with Jeff Hardy and Naka Murphy, so some of that allure from a squash and the shocking nature of it will be gone. But do you want to have Bliss really compromise Rousey being that powerful that she could stand toe-to-toe with Triple H at WrestleMania and kick his ass, and then have Bliss, having an even Stevens match with Rousey? I don't know where you go with this, but it's something that I shouldn't have to figure out, right? These are just some random thoughts here off the top of my head, but I believe that they should probably figure it out, since they're creative and it's the booking team and everything. But why would you have Ember Moon hit the Eclipse on Bliss and make it look like Bliss is about to beat her? If the thing is, if Ember Moon, who's not a trained mixed martial artist, who's not a former UFC women's champion, if she could beat Bliss, then don't you think Ronda Rousey will definitely beat her? And I think Foxy is out there because is Mickie James injured because she just suddenly disappeared? Or did I forget that maybe, did she like grab Mickie and maybe is the arm bars or arms supposed to be broken and they're just keeping her off TV to sell that? They won't even, keep somebody off TV for a week when they get thrown off the top of a cage. So I don't know if that's the case, but Baron Corbin defeated Tyler Breeze. Why was Tyler Breeze getting in so much offense? There's a few things here. Why is Tyler Breeze... I know I said that the fashion police gimmick thing was running its course, but why is that gimmick all of a sudden just ceasing to exist just because Fandango is injured? Now, Breeze is just kind of doing the Prince Pretty thing again, which is not over. The fashion police thing is. So why can't they find a replacement for Bliss or something like that in the meantime while he heals up? But, Tyler Breeze was really getting some offense in here. And also, guys, I almost forgot to mention, so let me say it now before I forget. because I'm already forgetting. You know, I already wanted to mention that they did a Jim the Anvil Neidhart tribute video. So okay, so I remember to say that. But Renee Young on commentary. Few things about this. First of all, I like to say what's very interesting is, you know how Corey Graves is on both shows. I don't understand why there's Raw versus SmackDown. You know, there's two brands that are supposed to be warring with each other over ratings and whatnot. Okay, so that's great. So why is Corey Graves on both shows? I asked this question all the way back in November or October or whenever it was. I asked the question around Survivor Series last year. Why is Corey Graves on both shows? They can't find another announcer. We have to listen to this goofball, you know, 2 times a week, basically. So, Renee Young, do you think maybe she will replace Graves, seeing that Graves is already on the show? No? Who do you think she replaces? Coachman. Why is it always like that? It's the same thing when you know, they would replace somebody else. It's always replacing Coach, always replacing Booker T, never replacing Corey Graves. You know, I'm failing to really realize why this is always a constant. But anyway, was Renee Young good on comments? She was just about as good as Graves. A lot of cliches, but you know, I guess, you know, I don't know. It wasn't, she didn't come across as good. It's, you know, I don't know if it's her first time on commentary. I feel like she's probably done main event or superstars or something like that before, but I might be wrong. I don't know. But, you know, I think this is because they're going to have Beth Phoenix commentating instead of Renee Young, so they're throwing her a freaking bone here by fucking giving her Raw. I don't know, but, you know, it just showed, like, with Renee Young, I guess, especially if you're new, they're just going to feed you a bunch of lines, you know, things that you wouldn't even normally say. But they're feeding her all these lines, like, all right, you're going to say this. You know, it's like, but you wouldn't normally say that. You know, this whole thing, you know, Tyler Breeze is not a superstar to sleep on and all this. She just said a lot of things that, like, almost every single announcer has said through the whole history of wrestling announcing. But Breeze got a lot of offense in, so then Corbin says it's time for, you know, Balor was to have a match against Jinder, but then Angle comes out, changes the match, and we've got Balor and Braun Strowman defeating Jinder Mahal and Kevin Owens. You know, Braun gets the pin on Jinder. Jinder doesn't have a match at SummerSlam. You know, I said, I don't understand what happened, like, in a year, but man, oh man, have they fucked up Jinder so bad. How do you get a guy that's getting natural heat from the crowd and you just bring him down so many levels? It's like, this should not even be possible. This should not even be a thing. We shouldn't even have to worry about this. I mean, I was looking throughout, like, thinking about it. How many times they have given the belt to somebody since, like, the beginning of, like, this past decade? Jack Swagger, Dolph Ziggler, Alberto Del Rio. The list goes on of people that they have given the world title to, and they're like, you know, oh, we're just, it's Seth Rollins even, Finn Balor, where they have lost all steam, where there is almost no semblance of a former champion coming from that character. You gave them the belt, you entrusted them enough to have your world title, but you failed to get behind them. I mean, it really is. I believe it probably was stemming from when they gave the belt to Jack Swagger. Ever since then, they've been going on this trend of having their champions lose, or, you know, even maybe a little bit of when they gave the belt to Rey Mysterio, where, you know, they just have the guy lose. He was like the losing champion. And you think back to the Attitude Era, and you think back to, you know, just basically any other time besides now, when someone had the world title, you were protected First of all, you know, for you to even wrestle on the show, you'd have to be in a very protected scenario. That match, you know, no one is pinning you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would not even be in that situation. That went for, like, all the champions. Unless it was a title match. But they have this hard-on now for, like, champions losing non-title matches. Because, like Road Dogg said, like Brian James said on Twitter, wins and losses don't matter anymore, right? It's fake. It doesn't matter, right? How come the commentators, all they do is talk about people winning and losing and all that? Or, as, you know, Michael Cole likes to say, knocking them off, knocking them off, knocking them off. I fucking hate that term! Honestly, I haven't said it in a few years because I just wanted to build it up, but I'll probably start mentioning it again. What is the thing now where we don't say defeat or beat or anything like that? I guess maybe it was one of those terms on that list that they took the snapshot of a few years back of the terms you're not supposed to say, distributed by Vince McMahon himself. Every time somebody loses, it's called knocking them off, and I don't like this term. It just sounds like knocking somebody up, you know. And like I said, with all the connotations about wrestling going around, about men rolling around their underwear and touching each other and everything, do we really need any more sexual references or things to be misconstrued as sexual references? I mean, honestly, you know, knocking off is not the best term. And I don't know why McMahon thinks it is, but then again, it's McMahon. And we're dealing with probably a half senile McMahon at this point, a halfway to Alzheimer's McMahon. I hate to say that because Alzheimer's is such a horrible disease to have, and you know, McMahon is a father and everything. But you know, you gotta just think, you know, this guy can't even remember who his own champions are. He can't even remember what happened on the last show. He wants to restart the XFL, for God's sakes. Bobby Lashley beat up some guy that was the biggest fan of Elias. So, you know, anyway, this guy comes out. He, you know, wants to be like Elias. Then Lashley comes out. Elias says, have a match with him. Prove yourself to me. And then he just ends up getting his ass beat. I don't want to even talk about this, because you know what I'm going to say, basically. What did this prove? By beating this guy up, what did it do? Are Elias and Lashley even scheduled to have a match at SummerSlam? I think. It's not even, like, clear cut if they are or they aren't. It's like one of those matches that I'm not sure. Like, is Sasha and Bayley going to have a match against the Riot Squad? Is Balor and Corbin going to have a match as well? Or is this all going to be on the pre-show? Like, it's one of these shows. This is what I'm saying, guys. This is SummerSlam, and how many official matches do we have announced? You know, okay, we already know what the tag titles is going to be on SmackDown. You know what that match is going to be. Okay, it's New Day versus the Bludgeon Brothers, if it's even going to be on the main show. And we already know, you know, the women's title match. Okay, we know the IC title match. Do we know what the United States title match is going to be? It's not very clear cut. It's Naka Murphy. Yeah, Jeff Hardy. Okay. So, you can see, though, it's like, but we don't know. There's not been a lot of official announcements. This is how WWE Evolution's going to be. And this is SummerSlam, and they barely have a card put together. Like, to me, WWE... Okay, so it's already been put out on the dirt sheets. It's probably true. They're very, very worried about SummerSlam, the creative team, the team that's in charge of the show. McMahon puts them in charge of the show. McMahon gets the final approval and everything, but you know, it's supposed to be that, you know, creative makes the show. They're the ones, you know, coming up with all these great ideas. So you would think that maybe if the show seemed to be lacking in some sort of way, if maybe the show seemed like it was going to tank or not be good in some way, shape, or form, then maybe they should pull out the big guns and do something really exciting on Raw to get people pumped. Or maybe book something for SummerSlam or have something planned that will really shock people. But we're still going to do this boring-ass show. We're not going to make any big announcements. Maybe if they tried really hard, like maybe they could have got The Rock or something or advertised Stone Cold. Or maybe Hulk Hogan, who's there, by the way, and they don't want to use him in any way, shape, or form. There was a rumor that Hulk Hogan was going to, there was going to be some, big thing where he's going to award the belt to Bobby Lashley. It was going to be a sign of anti-racism or whatever. But now Lashley, all he's doing is just in a grudge match against Elias. And, nothing against Elias. You guys all know how much I love Elias. But he's got nothing, they've got nothing planned for Hogan now. Because Lashley is not going to be wrestling Lesnar. So there's no chance of him winning the title. So there's no way of having Hulk Hogan present them with the title. So there goes that idea. So the interesting thing that I wanted to say is that Elias actually on the 18th in Manhattan here in New York City, he's actually going to be performing at the Gramercy. Now, sadly, I'm going to be working that day, so I won't be able to see it. But I would actually consider going to that. I think that would be very entertaining to actually hear, a little performance there by Elias. Now, I don't know how long that's going to last, and I don't know how much they're charging for tickets. That would all encompass into whether I'd go to it or not. But, it just seemed like a pretty cool idea that they were booking him like a real musician, like a real celebrity. The thing is, what just drives me crazy about segments like this on Raw is they know he's a star. That's the reason why they give him an album on Spotify and iTunes. That's the reason, why they gave him this gimmick, why they continue to have him come out there and sing to the crowd and everything. They know he's a super talented guy. Remember, this guy was a nobody in NXT. Compared to the Samoa Joes and, and all the other motherfuckers over there in NXT, the Balors and all that. It's Elias was lost in the shuffle of all the internet darlings. The Austin Aries and such, and the Kentas and everything that were over there. You had Elias, who was just the drifter, and they weren't really doing anything at all with the guy. So they brought him up to the main roster, and he's in the better spot now. He's got more exposure, obviously making more money. But it's you look at this guy, and he's world championship caliber material here, and they're just not doing anything with him. And you could, and we know he's going to lose to Lashley. Because they're going to try to give us the Roman Lashley 3 match probably at the next pay-per-view if Roman Reigns ends up winning at SummerSlam. So, I don't know where this leaves Elias after that. The B team defeated the Leaders of Worlds and the Revival. So the B team had this awesome theme song. They swapped it out for some cheesy Go B team Go shit. I don't know. So, Matt Hardy now, is planning on retiring. Apparently, he's going on this tour, so that's what it was about from last week. I thought that he was planning on, retiring immediately. I don't know how long it is, but, I don't really blame him, because where is there to go for Matt Hardy? If he's not going to get the satisfaction that he wants in WWE, ever since they had them come back, early last year, when they returned to the WWE, it has been a shit show. They jobbed them out constantly. They gave them the belts, but then they jobbed them out. It took a while for them to get the balls to do the deletion stuff, the broken, the woken, that stuff. It took them forever. So when they finally did that, they started building up Matt a little bit, and then now we just had the Deliers of Worlds, and they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything interesting with the Broken or the Woken universe. You have this tag team, which is brilliant. You have two of the most charismatic people currently in WWE right now, and you are failing to do anything at all with them. What you are doing with them is you're putting them out there and you're just having them constantly get beat. Does anybody realize that Curtis Axel pinned the former WWE champion? Bray Wyatt was a former WWE champion. He wrestled at WrestleMania against Randy Orton, remember? I know we already forgot. I even forgot to mention it when I was listing off the champions that were mistreated. Rey Mysterio, Jack Swagger, Ziggler, Alberto Del Rio. Add Bray Wyatt and his 1 month reign to that list. And you pin him like he's a sack of garbage, like he's another wrestler. So Matt Hardy retiring, it's like you can't even blame the guy. You look at this shit and you're like, they don't even think about this. Like Curtis Axel, the B team, the fluke winning team, is getting the win on it, and they don't even acknowledge that Curtis Axel. Like they could pull a whole thing and say, "Oh well, the son of Mr. Perfect, he lived up to his father's name there. He pinned a former world champion. What an accomplishment!" Nope, not even a fed line from Vince McMahon through the headset. And I don't get this. Like, why they toy around with this and have Bo work with his brother, in a match when they could be working together in a program? Why do they never acknowledge anymore that Curtis Axel has this lineage of his grandfather and his father, Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig? Why is he in this tiresome tag team where all they're going to do is just get these fluke victories and just celebrate, and they're going to keep doing this gimmick until McMahon gets tired of it and says to get it off the show, basically. And I don't even know why the Revival is there anymore. It's like they're just there to get in the match and not win it. So, it's like they have no other tag teams, I guess, so they have to throw them out here. You've got the Authors of Pain, but we're going to get to them in a little bit. Then there's this segment. Now, it's not the end of the show, mind you. Roman Reigns is in the ring. Paul Heyman comes out, makes an offer to Roman Reigns to let him, be his manager, let him be in his corner at SummerSlam against Brock. Then he sprays him with the pepper spray. And then Brock comes out and he F5s him. Okay. I mean, did he F5 him? I think he F5'd him and then he put him in a guillotine choke. Whatever the case may be. Puts him in the guillotine choke. Whatever, at the very least. So, I think he F5'd him though. But, so here's the thing. So now, Brock and Heyman are celebrating. So, 2 weeks ago, you tell this whole story, which was probably the best thing I've seen in a long time from them, with, Brock Lesnar's backstage. He's grabbing Heyman by the shirt collar. He's in the ring grabbing him by the face. He's suffocating Heyman. Heyman says he can't breathe, even though he's able to say that he can't breathe. If you can't breathe, you can't really talk. But that's besides the point. That's besides the fucking point. And then, next week there's the promo that, everybody is saying is so amazing. It's wonderful. It's tremendous. It's the best thing they've ever heard in 1,000 bazillion years. I thought it was overacted. I thought it was a bit cartoonish and a little bit too over the top from Heyman once again, but whatever. People liked it. So, more power to them, I suppose. So, you did all that. You told that whole story that, Brock is going to be unleashed. He's going to be on his own. He's not going to have Heyman there to calm him down. Great story, right? We're going to get a vicious match at SummerSlam. Probably even more brutal than WrestleMania, which was a good match. I still stand by that, guys. I don't understand how people thought that was a bad match. It was an exciting match. People didn't see flips and stuff, so they got, And that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Just let me sidetrack here a little bit with the Revival before I really like tear this apart. Didn't the Revival say there are no flips, just fists? And meanwhile, like Dash Dawson, whoever the fuck he is, does a suicide dive during the match. I know it's not a flip, but you get the point. It's a high-flying move. Anyway, back to the Heyman shit. So, they maybe at least wait to SummerSlam to do this. So all the allure is completely out the window. And some people are predicting that maybe it might be like a double turn. Maybe Heyman will then, screw Brock out of the title at SummerSlam. Maybe it's sort of like that. But I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, it's like the storytelling. They told that story there for 2 weeks. And like I said, if they do that, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They do the double turn shit. Then maybe that would be better. That will be good. That will be something interesting to look forward to see if it happens. And if it does happen, it will be a good thing. But then if it doesn't happen, then I'm afraid I have to kind of look at it like it's just a big fucking pile of shit. Like they did all that story right there. More story than they've done in a while. And I put it over the past 2 weeks. At least they're telling a story. They're doing a story. And they did an alright job with that story. But then you're just going to have Heyman come out there and just spray him with pepper spray and like, oh, that was it. It was a ruse. Oh, ho, ho, ho. And, that was just at the top of the third hour. I understand they did that because they, some people don't watch it to the end, which I'll still never understand. If they realize that no one is watching in the third hour and there's a clear drop-off, why is the third hour still there? So, it looks stupid. You have a world championship deal here, and it's not at the end of the show. And it's like, some payoff here to the storyline they've been building up here for a few weeks. And they don't even have the decency to put it in the main event slot. Bobby Roode and Titus Worldwide defeated the Authors of Pain and Mojo. Am I even going to talk about this? Honestly, they have done shit with the Authors of Pain. These guys, for all intents and purposes, they should be the tag champs. Meanwhile, you have the B team running around with the tag belts, and you've got guys that look like the Authors of Pain with empty waists. Playing around with Titus Worldwide where they have no intention of ever doing anything with these guys. And what is this weird ass feud with Bobby Roode and and Mojo? So thrown together. Like I said, I liked where they were going with Mojo, the bully, thing. But Bobby Roode, man, why is this guy not also in the world title scene? Why is this guy not a bigger deal? TNA did all the work for them. All they had to do was follow a simple template, and they can't even do that. I'm comfortable in my own skin. What a joke! Ruby Riott defeated Sasha Banks. I don't know if is this gonna be a match at SummerSlam, or are we gonna do Riott Squad versus Sasha and Bayley? Remember I Love You? Remember when this storyline seemed like it was just an inkling interesting? Seriously, what was that storyline? I'm saying it's the same thing. No, it's relevant. Because you see the same thing with Heyman here. How the fuck did they, have these two girls, Sasha and Bayley? How are these two girls fighting with each other? They're beating each other up, backstage. They're being sent to anger management. Then they're, now they I love you, and they never even follow up on it. Oh, I love you so much, I want to tag team with you, I guess. Remember, this was before SummerSlam. They were fighting with each other. Then they got back together. They didn't talk about it for a few months. Then they started fighting each other again. Now they're friends again. It's you realize with the months and months, and I realize it's probably just a minor storyline, but years and years go by, And like nothing's like ever progressed in this company. It doesn't feel different. It doesn't feel like, you know, each show doesn't feel like its own unique story. All it is just a fucking chore. That's all it is. It's going through the motions. Back during the Attitude Era, you look at how those shows link together, and it was like one big story. Every minute you were on the edge of your seat, even if the storyline wasn't necessarily something you were that fond of. At least you could give them credit for taking the effort to tell a pretty cohesive, consistent storyline. And it was something everybody who appeared on that show felt like they had a purpose. Here, you don't feel like anybody has a purpose. You feel like they're just here on the show to fucking fill time. Then in the main event, it was, the main event segment, you had a contract signing, which, you know, this just felt weird. A contract signing for the Intercontinental Championship. The thing that goes on last is the main event. So, you got rid of the World Championship stuff in the beginning of the first hour. And I already explained before, you say in the comments why they put whatever they did where they did on the show. The formatting is so they got the most out of it in the ratings. But it's like, it looks ridiculous. You're going off the air with the Intercontinental Championship, which will not be in the main event of SummerSlam. It's pretty obvious that it's going to, the last match is going to be Brock versus Lesnar. I mean, well, he's going to fight himself. No, Reigns versus Lesnar. That's going to be the last match. So, why do you do the contract signing at the end? Okay, so, you know, they had this whole thing that, you know, Seth throughout the night was having travel problems, and, you know, it was a storyline that was, you know, no one really cared about. But Dean Ambrose ended up returning, and they ended up, you know, fighting with Ziggler and Drew McIntyre in the ring at the end. And Dean Ambrose looked awesome. If I could say anything, you know, it was a good way. You know, Seth comes out, oh, you know, I didn't have trauma problems. It was, you know, anyway, so Dean cut that ridiculous fucking mop off his head. And the guy, I talked about how this guy, like, lost his gains. I don't know what it was. But you could clearly see that when this guy was there, when he first came onto the scene in 2012 at Survivor Series, Dean Ambrose had some considerable size to him. You know, he wasn't the biggest guy, but you could clearly see that this guy had a physique on him. Then, like, around, like, 2014, when they broke up the Shield, I said that the guy had noticeably seemed like he had lost a lot of muscle mass. It looked like the guy really wasn't working out anymore, or if he was working out extremely lightly, and, you know, he was probably just doing some cardio or stuff. You know, he looked better than Samoa Joe, for instance. You know, it didn't look like he was, like, eating a fucking pile of Krispy Kreme every day. But, you know, I noticed it, and I was like, what's going on? So now Dean came back, and he's in amazing shape. He might even be in better shape than he was when he first debuted on the main roster. And he looked like a badass. And, you know, honestly, like, I looked at him against Seth Rollins, and I'm like, well, Dean looks like a star here. Now, I'd already said, I talked about Dean Ambrose and how he looks and everything, and I said, like, dressing him in jeans and the wife beater is not a good way of, you know, showing this guy as a world champion. You know, you're making him look like, as my dad said when he got a gander of him on TV, he said he just looks like a regular guy. And he does. Now, Dean Ambrose is great at facial expressions and everything, and there are things that make him stand out. And I do genuinely like Dean's demeanor. I always said that about him. I hate his direction. I don't know why he's called the Lunatic Fringe, but now with the new look and everything, it's a little bit better for Dean. It plays off better for him. And I think that, you know, it's going to lend a little bit better to his presentation. But, you know, anyway, I was a fan of his new look. So seeing him come back, this made Raw just a little bit better. This still was a bad show. But, you know, okay, so I guess maybe that's why they might have also wanted to save it to the end so they could get the big pop for Dean Ambrose. After it looked like he was going to be there last week, but then, like, McMahon fucked up, and I think he actually thought that Dean was at the arena, and they had this weird thing where, like, last week, the announcers actually say, oh, well, Dean's not going to be in the match, and I think I even mentioned in my review how weird that sounded. Like, they're talking about a guy who's out injured. Oh, don't think it's going to be him because he's not here. It's like they were planning it, and then they kind of like almost apologized for him not being there, but whatever. So, you know, there you go, guys. There's your go-home show for SummerSlam. What a show, right? Like, wow. What a fantastic show. I mean, all you got here was a bunch of shit until they get to the Brock thing. Then you've got, you know, Dean Ambrose appearing at the end. The Ronda stuff in the beginning was okay, but, you know, we've already seen the security guards getting beat up already 1,000 times. And referees from, you know, between Asuka and Ronda Rousey, it's been the same shit, basically. And other than that, like, everything following that in between was just a bunch of matches that no one gave two shits about. They didn't protect anybody on the show. They didn't make any strides at building new stars or, you know, try to reconstruct anybody. I mean, you take a look at the Elias segment and you see how clueless they are. Like, what did this segment do for either guy? You're just beating up on some doofus who's, you know, just a fan of Elias, you know, just some indie wrestler. And you're supposed to sit there and say, oh, that's good TV, that's entertainment. No, I'm going to sit there and say that's fucking shit. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to sit there and say it's good. I mean, you know, it's at times like these, you just got to, like, sit here and say, like, what the fuck are they thinking? Like, honestly, like, what is going through their head? You look at these shows, and you're just like, this is fucking pointless. They're doing you know, you've got 3 hours of content. Does anybody ever think about that? There's 3 hours of content. There's no other show on TV besides a sporting event that gets anywhere close to that amount of airtime. You think that maybe the show could be at least passable? Maybe decent? And I realize that I've been going on about this 3 hour thing for 6 years already. Do you guys realize that Raw has been 3 hours for over half a decade? And it's showing no signs of stopping because I don't know what Fox is planning. Is Fox really going to let them do 3 hours? Does anybody ever sit back and think, to the USA Network, how the fuck did they even give the green light to somebody to do a 3 hour program? It's not even a sporting event. It's just entertainment. It's unheard of. And this is why I have to, it's like what I said at the beginning of the show. What's this weird thing about wrestling where even though it sucks, we still watch it? You know, that's something I want you guys to let me know in the comments. What the fuck is it about wrestling that they're allowed to have 3 hour shows on major networks and shit like this, even on Fox? Why is wrestling getting an excuse when any other show on TV would get fucking canceled? You've had shows that have had better ratings than Raw get canceled. So, you know, I don't get it. They're thinking about canceling Gotham. That does better ratings even. But not good enough. And that's on Fox! Holy shit, Gotham is on Fox. And they're actually thinking about canceling that show. And that show, I believe, it's got to have higher ratings than SmackDown. Unless because it's on Fox, they think, oh, it's the WWE. They're going to have higher ratings on here. It's just, you know, you guys got to also remember that even before they were on the USA Network, when they were on, Sci-Fi. Oh, okay, well, maybe that's why. It was, you know, not really a popular channel. Maybe that's what they think. Maybe they think because, you know, now it's going to be back on regular TV. I mean, but right, like, even when they were on, like, UPN, weren't they even getting shitty ratings towards the end? I don't know. I don't even remember. We got, guys, you know, it's a shit show, alright? And we're not even doing this SmackDown review. We're on to talking about SmackDown. So you know what, guys? Then I'll see you for the SmackDown review. Thank you for watching, guys. Please subscribe. Please click the bell so you get notifications when I put up videos. Watch my other videos, please. Watch my video game reviews. Get involved in the channel. Watch all this other stuff because, you know, it's some great content on here. There's a lot of variety. I've also got some, you know, a bit of a funny video plan that I might post today or tomorrow that I have already in the can. So, yeah, guys, this has been your YWC Champ, and I'm signing out.